If you thought it was a bit early in our relationship for us to be getting into bed together, you were probably right, but here we are. Have I ever mentioned I'm disabled? Yeah, I think so. I've been going through a bit of a rough time with my health recently, sort of beginning at the start of November, and I was feeling really rough and really miserable for about a week. And normally when I feel really sad I sew, but obviously I wasn't well enough to do any sewing, so I was getting more and more frustrated, which wasn't helping my recovery, which meant I could do even less sewing, and I believe that's what's known as a vicious cycle. And then after about a week I was like, didn't I already make a video about this? So I took my own advice. Here we are. Sewing in bed. So I have unfortunately had to postpone all my planned projects indefinitely for the meantime. I've sort of done that to kind of give myself total freedom, zero pressure. And instead what I'm doing is I'm working on a hand sewing project from bed. Here we are. When it came to deciding what this project should be, I had a few ideas of things I wanted to do in mind. So first of all, this whole thing started by I was actually just finishing a UFO, which is this shift. It's inside out. And I'd started making this shift with a kind of half-baked 18th century project in mind, but then I realised that I don't really like the 18th century and I wasn't excited to carry on working on it, so it sort of got moved to the UFO pile and I never came back to it. But it's completely hand sewn, and so I thought, well, while I'm recovering a little bit, I'll finish off that shift. Well, I did that pretty quickly, and it got to the point where I had to set the neckline, and I thought to myself, I have no idea what shape or depth to make this neckline because I don't know what I'm going to use this shift for. So I had to think about things I'd like to make. I didn't really want to go back to this 18th century project. I thought, so what else could this be? And I remembered that I'd bought earlier this year in the red threaded pattern sale the Regency Stays pattern, and given the nature of the costuming world in the UK, we do a lot of Regency stuff because of Jane Austen. So I thought, well, we'll probably need a Regency costume at some point. That could be a good project for me. So I thought, why don't I make this a Regency shift, do Regency Stays, and do a little Regency project. However, when I do historical projects, I almost always drape my own patterns or cut my own patterns based on Janet Arnold, Nora War, so on and so forth. However, that's difficult to do from bed, and cutting out generally is difficult to do from bed. So I knew I was going to need a commercial paper pattern that my mum could help me cut out. I could sort of give directions from a chair and she could actually do the snipping. And so I asked my fellow Costubers for their help, and I explained the situation. I'm not very well, I'm going to have to be sewing from bed for the foreseeable future. So I asked for some recommendations for a relatively straightforward Regency pattern that my mum would be able to help me cut out. And the recommendations I got back were for this pattern, which is Laughing Moon 138 138, and I bought the digital pattern and had it printed here in the UK at one of my local craft shops, so I'll put a link below if you're looking for a pattern printing service. Yeah, and people had very good things to say about this pattern, and lots of people mentioned that they already had a copy of this pattern but had never made it or had been interested in making this pattern. And so my wonderful friend Liz from Lizscapism suggested that we do a little sew along. One of the good things about this pattern is there's lots of variations. You can do an evening version, you can do a day version, you can do lots of fancy trimmings or none at all. And so out of that, this idea for a sew along was born. So all this nonsensical rambling has finally come to its point in which this is an announcement. I'm hosting a sew along, kind of, from my bed. I'm calling it Relaxed Regency sew along, because this is literally the chillest sew along ever. Like, there are no rules, you don't have to do anything to take part apart from make a Regency dress. If you want to make this laughing moon pattern, make this laughing moon pattern. If you don't have this pattern or you want to make a different pattern, make a different pattern. The point is just to essentially compare notes. There's lots of us who are going to be working on Regency projects at the same time for moral support, to help each other through, to give each other tints and hips. Tints and hips! I can't believe that. Oh my god, tints and hips. But basically the main point of this project and the linked sew along is just to give me something to do while I'm recovering in bed. No pressure, no stress. If you want to make a Regency dress, make a Regency dress. Several of us are going to be making them. And if you are making one or have made one, I'd like to see yours. So I'm probably going to make a playlist of videos once that's a thing, that if people want to make a video and they make a video about this. So watch out for that. I'm also using the hashtag #RelaxedRegency on Instagram. So if you've made this pattern and you want to show me what the dress looks like, tag me in it. #RelaxedRegency, all that jam. Oh god, all that jazz. This is going to be a nightmare to edit, isn't it? So basically, I'm not feeling very well. Going to have to be sewn from my bed for the foreseeable future. I'm doing a Regency project because I had some of the supplies for that almost ready to go, and it's quite easy to do from bed. My fellow Costubers have been giving me some advice and some moral support, and as a result we're having a sew along. It's called the Relaxed Regency Sew Along. It's the world's most chill sew along. All you have to do is make some form of Regency dress. If you want to make the Laughing Moon 138 pattern, cool. If not, you do you. If you want to make a video about it, make a video about it. If you don't want to make a video about it, that's fine. But I will be making a playlist if you do make a video about it. If you want to share your progress pictures or your finished gown pictures or whatever on Instagram, tag me @RetroClaude and use the hashtag #RelaxedRegency. Like I say, no pressure. I'm calling this the world's most chill sew along. Like, please don't stress about it. Please don't at me whether you can be a part of it. If you want to make a Regency dress, just make a Regency dress. In terms of what I'm actually doing and what I'm actually sewing, I've finished off now, apart from the neckline, because I was waiting for my pattern to arrive to finish the neckline. A shift, which is all hand sewn. Lovely. I'm also hand sewing some stays. Probably going to be the red threaded stays because that's the pattern I've got. I've started on a toile for that, so let's see what happens there. In terms of a petticoat, I'm reusing an old bed sheet and making a petticoat. Got to work with what you got sometimes. I've gone for, in terms of the dress I'm making, I've gone for a slightly later style, 1820s style, because I'm always really interested in those transitional moments in fashion. So the 1820s is really interesting as we kind of come out of Regency and into wacky 1830s. So, I've settled on a fashion plate, maybe I'll put it here. And it says it's for a promenade dress. So it's kind of an outdoorsy dress, I suppose. I really hope this video makes sense. Here's to doing things in a half-assed way, from your bed.